Are we ready? All right. It is that time, whatever that time is. It's 9:10. Is there a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Hope everybody had a great evening. Had a 3-hour Monopoly session last night.
Oh, God. Oh, jeez.
My 8-year-old's a shark. He leaned over to me. My wife was winning early, and then he leaned over and he's like, she was winning earlier. She's the loser now.
We should do this stuff. We'll break up the longest one. Let it run for months, years.
Game of chess.
No.
There's actually a chess game that's been going on for 25 years. They make one move per year.
Wow.
Yeah.
One move a year.
Yep, they come every time they meet, they make one move.
You gotta make that count.
Yeah.
Great.
What's that, Congress?
Yeah.
I don't know if they knew that.
You gotta
You know, they make that one.
Yeah, it's like, see you next year. Yeah. Well, thanks.
So what do we have left to do?
I do have one thing, if we could talk about it. It's an error on my part. Yesterday, when we were looking at the employees' benefits, this has to do with the $280,044. That was the premiums for court services. Albert, rightfully so, had deducted it from the amount coming in for premiums, and then added it down to the cash transfer line. It was just so much going on, but it is on me. I was like, hey, Albert, can we add it back to the top line where it came from? Was my logic,
Right.
which wasn't correct. So I think we do need to correct that, and it will have an impact on either how much we're going to leave or the fund balance we're targeting, or perhaps if whatever we want to decide after we see the numbers. But so I had him add it back to the top line, the $19,495,000. There should not be the $280,044 in there.
Okay.
But, okay, so the 280 is already in that number, is what you're saying?
I had him at it yesterday. Because I was like,
Because we'd included that in the budget earlier, and it was transferred down into the employee benefits supplement, that if we're gonna take it back away, then
Right.
that number has to come down
Yeah.
by that amount.
Yeah. and that was, so that will have an impact then on that $1,063,000. Like you did show it in there yesterday, right? When I said add it, okay.
And then
Well,
do we add it into the transfer or leave it out of the transfer?
that's the question now. What's the bottom line? It's gonna be,
783.
yeah. So we would wanna add it back there.
Mhm.
Yeah, go ahead and add it back there. And then we're, okay, 168. Now that's gonna change the supplemental line. It's gonna be on the second page. That additional cash transfer now needs to be, so what would that be, 2,000,003. Basically from the 9,620, you wanna take off 7.3 million. That doesn't seem.
What was that dollar amount, 280, what?
Well, it's 280.
280,044.
So instead of the 1,396,775, we would need 1,676,819.
Yeah, but that math isn't working now on that line.
I had to be confused too.
We basically put it back to what it was on the big sheet.
We had already talked
But yes,
before
we've
about
already
moving
done
it.
the employee premiums. Okay, so yes, it was that additional cash transfer, add the 280,044 to that.
Right. So that would be 1,676,819. Right.
Yes. Yeah, 1,676,819.
And what did we previously motion?
1,396,775. Christie, my one question is, when you said going back to the big sheet, we had talked previously about moving that 280 back into court services. We did that like the very beginning of these conversations. So had that big sheet already been adjusted for that 280?
The big sheet was after the clerk's office deducted the 280,044 from the 19, the top line, and they added it, rightfully so, to the cash transfer to get to the 96.
Okay.
But yesterday, I kind of undid
Okay.
that,
Yeah.
thinking, hey, we need to add it back to where we took it from, and then that's what.
Okay.
You're thinking of the sheet prior to the big sheet.
Yes, yeah, I just didn't
Where
know for
we
sure if
said
the
we
big
need to
sheet
make the
had changed that.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
So now we have on of ongoing operations more than there is there.
Craving sheet cake.
So there wouldn't be balance to general fund reserve.
Right. So if we didn't make any other changes, and I'm not saying that we won't, but if we didn't make any changes other than increasing that transfer into employee benefits, to 8,044, that would reduce the general fund reserve to 1,342,668.78.
What'd you say, 1,342,668?
78, yeah.
Now on ongoing operations though,
Because Christie, what that would contemplate would be using ongoing operations plus some of the
yeah, I
reserve,
agree with
which
that.
includes your transfer.
Yeah.
Which the treasurer's transfer is something that will be an ongoing. You had mentioned that that'll be the same way the next year and after, so it's not a one-time.
That's true. Actually, it'll be more next year. So it'll be for a full year.
And we will probably, I still think that we shouldn't make any adjustments yet, but social services, I would think we'll probably have at least like a $200,000 to $300,000 amount left in there to transfer around at some point.
So at this point, should we just put the 280,044 on the watch list? And
For
when
employee
those-
benefits?
And when those revenues come in, then we can essentially infuse that from one of those revenues at that time?
I mean, we could, and we're starting the year on employee benefits with an estimated ending balance at 800,000.
What did you say? I'm sorry. The 280.
Yeah, basically putting that balance that we just got, the 280,044, and just put it on the watch list with the intention of once we get those revenues in, either from the treasurer or social services or wherever, that we would then infuse that into benefits, that amount from those revenues.
On that 280,044, we actually already have a BET recommendation to move that. This is just budget authority at this point. So it's to move, it was to move the 280,044 from employees benefits supplement to, back to court, that's the amount going back to court services.
Right, no, I understand that,
I think
but we're pulling that out of what we are cash transferring. Or we're shorting our benefits.
You just mean don't transfer the 280, like, don't make a motion to send the additional 280
Yes.
to the transfer,
Yes,
and instead put it
So-
on watch list.
Right.
To start the year out,
Right.
less than the
Yes.
$1,063,000
Right.
anticipated ending balance by $280,000.
yes,
Put it on the watch list, and then as we go through the year, once we see what we're gonna transfer back in from social services or whatever, we can always move money from reserve, because that money, we would just
Will-
move it down to reserve, and then we
yes.
can move it from reserve into employee benefits
Right.
later in the year.
I mean, that's just to say if we're comfortable starting out with that less number in benefits.
So that's $1,063,800, is that right?
800,
Minus 280,044. So that would be anticipating an ending year balance at 783,756.
yes. I mean, if we're comfortable with that.
Last year transfers in were 9.3, or 9.4.
Yeah.
So really the only difference in transfers in is 100 grand, which that's kind of weird. How did that work out mathematically?
Well, is that
Because-
part of
Because of
us?
Because the overall is staying the same, but we've shifted by increasing premiums. So you got special revenue paying for part of all of what general fund did for last year, right?
Right. I was just thinking back, one of John's comments was that he just wanted to budget for the same amount of transfers in as we did last year, regardless of how you arrive at that number through employee, employer, or transfers in. If we were to transfer
Okay, I see what you're saying.
that would be
yeah.
way greater than last year's transfers in. So how do we, what am I?
Does this base number that we started with, it includes the past the hat money, right?
It does.
Mhm.
Yes.
Which is why I'm a little more comfortable where we are this year,
Totally
because we're
agree.
including all of that past the
Right.
hat
Totally agree.
funding up front.
Up front. But you see what I'm saying? I mean, how mathematically we get there? Christie, do you know?
Your employer part that you're helping to fund is up at it's up at the 19.
It's not a
All
part
your
of the
share.
transfer.
Well, right, and I get that, but so John was saying yesterday though, that he was anticipating the transfers in to be 9,441 as they were last year. So if we're only 100,000 short, if we were to add the 280 back into that transfer in, then we're way over last year's transfers in.
Well, but he wanted those transfers in, and then we would have an ending balance of $1 million in the account.
I see what you're saying. I'm not sure either.
I just meant if we were, and I get that, so if we were to take transfers in, and let's say they were both equal at 9.4, why is the bottom number not the same $1 million balance if the transfers are the same? Where's the rest of the math
Well,
off?
up at your 23-24 actual, the very top line, that's 18 million. That was that whole
Yes.
thing that we discovered last year. That,
Uh-huh. And those estimates have gone up by 825,000.
well, revised estimates now, but.
Yeah. I don't know. My flyover math here has me confused, so I was just,
Well, I think that the difference is the difference between your original estimates and then what your revised is.
yeah, 824. Yeah, no, I mean, we don't have to dwell on it. I just something that caught me off guard. If the transfers were the same. What I don't see is how, I guess, if we increase the premiums by a total of 824 plus 32, so if we're increasing the premiums by 860,000, and we were to put the same two amounts in, 9.4 and 9.4, our ending cash balance is significantly less than it was this time last year for anticipated, I guess is where I was going with the math, but maybe the expenditures are up, but I don't think you indicated that, so. Yeah, again, we don't need to dwell on it, we don't have to be wrong.
No, the 2% on medical and 5% on
Yeah.
prescription on expenditures increase.
Yeah, I mean, to Brandy's inquiry, I'm certainly a lot more comfortable with 783 parking there since all the past that money's in there up front. But, and I am optimistic. I think that like I said, we're going to get a full year's worth of the Medicare change this year, plus the full year of the pharmacy changes that John's made. And so that social services issue, I think that I feel like we've at least taken steps for the right direction. And we know that all that benefits money is going in there rather than going to the departments.
Right.
That's a huge one.
And a lot of times what we've done in the past is we haven't fully funded it up front. We funded like 7.5 million. If we thought it was going to be 9, we funded 7.5, and we put 1.5 million on the watch list, which is why I was always, we need 1.5 million on the watch list for employee benefits.
Because you're gonna lose that money.
We had a pretty good chance that we were going to, but now we are funding a lot of the premiums. A vast majority of the premiums are funded up front, so vacancies and stuff aren't going to affect the amount that's going to go in there. And we've fully funded the transfer amount up front instead of trying to hope for savings throughout the year and not have to do transfers later.
I mean, I think just just from last year, the budget amount that John anticipated was 19.165 million for premiums employer side. And even the employee side was $4 million. And then the actuals just on the premiums was so much lower. This year, we know we're not gonna have to worry about that for the general fund side. So, I mean, I think that alone is a huge difference too.
I
think we've taken a lot of the right steps, I think.
I know Cody's been talking about it since I've been here, but having money where we're building a reserve in the benefits account, and I mean, that's what I was hoping to start this year. It probably wouldn't hurt to have some kind of a policy that we get the budget board to adopt. It's that every year we want to have so much land to carry over. You may have to dig into it one year if you're under, but every year you just another extra 500,000 or 700,000 or something.
Yeah.
You always build into the budget, hoping that it's.
Well, I think a real good start.
It starts building up a.
And that's what we got here. We got 783.
I get it. But maybe to actually have a stated policy and that so everybody knows from year to year, that's really kind of what we were thinking.
Yeah.
Was that we're always going to build a certain amount in there, whether we think we need it or not, hoping that it stays in there and doesn't get touched.
Well, I mean, I think to your point, I think at least I would assume that's kind of what we'll do. I mean, our transfers in stayed relatively close to the same, but we increased employee and employers. I think that's a pretty good cushion for both sides.
So are we comfortable with that 783?
I think knowing that we're going to have some coming in from social services and the likelihood of us doing an employee benefits pharmacy in the $500,000 revenue that he's anticipating just, in that partial year. I think that is really important. I mean, if we can generate year by year $500,000 into that is really where I'm hoping we can start building that balance so that then we have these dollars to be able to not have to make as, I hate to say tough decisions because it makes it sound like we're not, we want it easy. That's not it. It's, I know you have needs, Brandy. I know Mike has needs. I know you have needs, and we have to say no because we can't afford it. It's not you asking for, HBO and Showtime. I mean, it's not. It's asking, for extra gas money so you can, whatever. They're not wants, they're needs, and we have to sit here and say, well, we can't do that need this year because of X, Y, and Z. If if we're able to build a balance there and maybe not have to leave a projected balance of $783,000 from our regular funding, we have an estimated balance of, $3 million ending the year with us not having to do near as much because we have that big balance just, rolling forward. So
you anticipate there being some savings with social services regardless of what happens on the pharmacy?
yes, because we're paying for the pharmacy now. But we're
If the pharmacy change works out, then it would be even greater, but there will be some. Okay.
And it's anticipated that, based on the info that we've gotten, is that the pharmacy would pay for itself and then have the additional income on top of that, so.
So do we feel like we need at least a certain number on the watch list for this, or are we in a position to where?
I think we always keep something on the watch list for employee benefits.
Okay.
I think that'd be at least wise.
Got question marks there now, we can just plug in
What we pulled out, what we.
The 280,044.
Uh-huh.
45, as long as it doesn't confuse people. Or like 300 or 250.
Well, I think.
I'd probably use a different number, but.
I think it would help on some of these from year to year if we footnoted some of these things, these numbers, so we can see why there's that random 280 number. I mean.
Well,
you
it is
don't remember-
random, I mean, that was the amount of.
No, I know, but I mean, I'm saying.
But it'll look random on the watch
Right,
list.
that's what I'm saying, yeah.
Yeah, so I just think
I would
if
do 250.
whoever picks it up, they can see what
275.
that is. It is just more transparent and helps people with short memories like me.
Well, if we had on the watch list, and I'm not saying to do this number, but if we had $216,244, that would
Indicate a
indicate
specific.
an ending balance of $1 million. So anything over the 216, if it was 250, if it was 275, if it was 300, then the explanation is that's there. So if we have it towards the end of the fiscal year, we would like to put that in there so that we can have an anticipated rollover balance.
What
under
number
$1
was
million.
that, 216 what?
244.
244.
Okay, well, I'll go ahead and make that motion to add, to the watch list, a number of $216,244, for employees' benefits. And that essentially, that number would shore us up to $1 million.
Just to confirm, that was 216,244.
Yes, ma'am.
Christie, did you bring paper copies of that thing you made yesterday? Oh, no.
They're both right there,
Gotcha.
2 piles of them.
Thank you. You want to? Christie, are they the same as what you would email me?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, the piles today are what, from this morning. Whatever one was in there.
Okay, we've got a motion to add to the watch list $216,244 for employee benefits.
Second.
Got a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Christie, good catch.
Well,
that.
it was my fault.
Well, no,
I mean,
it was
it's just once you
confusing.
walk away from the table and really
Yeah.
Think about it.
So then the employee transfer of $13.96, that stays.
Yes, yeah. So the only change to anything that we did yesterday was just adding to the watch list.
And then, one other thing I noticed when I went back to my desk after the meeting yesterday on the COLA.
Mm-hmm.
When we had 3% right here, these cells that I had highlighted had pulled over these amounts. So that affected your ending balance. Because I think y'all had what, I don't have in front of me, it's like 245, 245 right there. For the, that you guys were gonna put on the watch list.
and you're saying it should be the 243,
Should be the
89.
243, 890, 25, yes.
Or change it.
I say we, yeah.
Okay. Is there a motion to change the watch list amount for the additional 5% to get it.
Wait.
0.5.
Yeah.
Your 5%'s in my head.
Salesman, salesman.
Sorry.
I see how this works, yeah.
So moved.
Say it one more time.
We had, we put 245,249.02 on the watch list yesterday for potential, salary increase for, general fund employees. That dollar amount actually needs to be 243,890.25, and I think, do we have a motion for that? To change that, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you, Albert.
A question that came up in our office was on the increase in the employer premiums. How will those funds flow into benefits? Will they go to the departments based on employee count, or will it be direct from general fund into employee benefits?
Correct.
Those used to be funded in each department's general fund budget, but this is the year we need to change.
Right.
Remember, it was in there,
No, I
we
know.
pulled it right out, so it would follow that. It would go right in
But I think
when cash is
we
available.
started your year though, for your budget showing your benefits including that, and then it was an expense at the very beginning, transfer out. So the 3%, my understanding is, whatever that 3% is, based on your employee benefits amount that you had estimated, their budget, their benefit budget would go up by that amount, but then it would be automatically a
Deduction.
transfer out, just like it was on July 1.
I'm with you.
That way it tracks in all of our budgets. That way, if we do an increase the next year of 3%, it's the 3% on top of the 3% this year. If we don't put it in there now and then take it directly out, we'll get some skewed numbers.
You following that?
So you're saying to put that 3% increase into the department budgets and then take it out of there and put it back into employee benefits?
Just like you did on July 1, yeah.
Okay.
Because that's how you did it on July 1, right? Because when I look at my munis report, it'll say what my beginning budget was in benefits, and then it shows a huge deduction from that benefit account, because that was that transfer to employee benefits. I think this number would be the exact same way.
Okay. But on the other side, would it be easier to just take it from the supplement into employee benefits?
The problem with that would be, I think, like, let's say we got an open records request that, hey, what's your total budget? We wouldn't be able to capture what that total budget is unless you punched into our budget first. The way that I would.
Well, but that's
It would be
also, that's
easier.
already a mistake.
It would be easier, yes, but-
Transfer.
But when we included those numbers in our budgets so that we can kind of account for the cost of that particular office. And we have to do it for our special revenues anyway. We're not gonna increase the budgets, but we're gonna have to change those rates on there, and those are gonna be paid out monthly. I guess that doesn't really affect what you were talking about. But I think that if, it's not as easy as what you were contemplating, but I think in the long run, if we don't include the 3% in my budget and then a deduction from my budget, then next year when we come in, say we
You won't
start at a
budget
flat
for it.
budget, then we're gonna start at the lower benefit amount because it's not gonna show that 3%.
Each department needs to show that budget amendment, just for next year's budgeting purposes, for each department.
Okay.
It is an extra step, but at least we'll be able to account for that when each department's doing our estimated needs for next year.
Why don't we run the $9.4 million of direct transfers to everybody's budget, so you actually get an accurate look at what everybody's real employee budgets
There's a lot
are.
of admin costs, and
Do I?
unless you're really wanting cost out account, like cost of the admin stuff too. It's not just tied to the number of people.
Yeah, and you can't,
The
I don't think
total
you can.
cost of employees' benefits, unless you want to try to cost account it
Well,
all out.
Well, the admin stuff, I think, is a cost to the program, but I think the part of it, if I'm not mistaken, I think that also includes the retirees portion as well.
Yes, it does.
So that's a big
Well,
chunk of
maybe,
it.
but I think in the future, that's another thing to have a conversation about, because it does go up, it has been going up with the actual expenses of the employees.
Yeah.
And so it's money that's not reflected in everybody's budget, which it should be. Now, some of that is the admin of running the department. Obviously, I get that.
And that, I mean, of course, the higher
It
that
masks a
number.
lot of the money,
Yeah,
the cost of.
I think we've all kind of talked about that before, but I mean, and also, if we were to roll those transfers into, the employer premiums, obviously that's gonna spike up service fee and special revenue costs as well, if we're keeping those the same across the board. So those accounts, those departments that have those service fees and special revenue, we see a higher increase, like public defender might have a problem doing that financially.
I don't think they probably would. They definitely would, because it's a smaller budget,
So, but that's another consideration, but I like the idea. 'Cause
Yeah.
Right now, we've talked about that in our office, there's no really accurate way to even to know what the true number of somebody is.
The number is currently, but
There's one to truly see the fiscal liability on the county.
I do think that's something to
talk about, right?
keep
Not today.
looking at and talking about.
So it does sound like put it in the budgets
Right.
and then
And it takes-
deduct it out and put
Put it
it
back
where
in
you
the
put the other money. You said in supplements,
It's a- or it's
991.
supplement, yeah.
I said, I'd rather see that you just go one or the other, either go all cash transfer or all employer premium.
Well, that's.
Just stick to one model.
Oh, you still gotta capture something.
Yeah.
Special ed.
Could we, and I'm sorry that I had to leave early, so I only heard the COLA conversation on YouTube as I was driving. But could we take a look at the COLA again real quick? I just had a question.
That was yesterday's conversation.
It was.
Just kidding.
Yes, it was. And now it's today's.
If you're not careful, it'll be tomorrow.
Exactly. I will recess this until tomorrow. Okay, so I heard that you voted on the 2.5. What was the actual final number of that? What is that?
The grand total of the two.
The 2.5, the
1,219,450.
1,219,450. Okay,
And Brandy, it's on Christie's sheet here. She's got it.
oh, okay, perfect. Does that 1.219, does that also include the detention center? No. Okay. All right. That was my only question.
Well, we're talking about it tomorrow now, you've already threatened us, let's do it. I'm gonna call your bluff.
I'll be absent that day.
So make sure it gets scheduled. and-
Yeah.
Exactly.
You'll be the one not here.
Okay. Can you go back to Mike or?
Well, our original estimate needs on the general fund side, we were asking for an additional $384,710. $57,000 of that has already been addressed through the previous ESRI and the cloud hosting through Azure. Some of that's going to be postage. It's a $50,000 amount of postage that hasn't been addressed yet. Then we have some smaller contracts, but the majority of that's going to be in the change of moving Tim out of reval over to general fund that we haven't discussed yet. And currently, he's paid 9 months out of reval, 3 out of general. In our opinion, that needs to be flipped for 3 months of reval and 9 months of general, due to the amount of workload that he's doing for all the other offices.
When are you going to make that change?
As soon as possible. We're already on the 3rd month.
Is there any way that we could rock it this year the way we did? No. And then make those adjustments for next fiscal year?
Absolutely not. I'm not going to pay an employee out of a fund that it's not eligible to be paid out of. I will not do that.
That one is tough because it's cities and schools that are a lot of that cost. I didn't know if maybe we could push it to October, and just make it a watch list item and address it then, but
So what's the
we
total
have
you're
to know,
asking for
do you have
now?
the,
From the general side of everything, if I were to include that plus some smaller contracts, the total is 206, 165, 73.
206, 165.
73, correct.
I need the breakdown though.
Mm-hmm.
50 postage, how much for Tim, salary and benefits?
Total for that, well, the total number in our ask was 106,448 out of salary and wages, 32,494 for fringe. And then I'm gonna have some smaller contracts. Printing and services of 850. Our scanning software, an increase of 3308.73. Contract increase for our deeds for just appraised was 5565. 2,000 for additional copies that would go through the copiers. Copier lease increase contract of 1,500 and $4,000 for lease of the mail machine.
All of that totals 206, 165, 73.
The 50,000 we talked about a little bit this morning, that if that needs to go to a watch list item, we could push it to a watch list item, but we will need it down the road. But if it's a way for us to push it and hold it
That's
Or-
the postage?
for postage. Because we won't be doing any of our mailings till probably March, February, March in that time frame. Our big bulk mailings. But I do have some additional postage on the visual inspection side, the reval side that we need to come over on additional money. That'll be a separate piece we'll talk about in a second.
I'd be concerned about putting something like that on the watch list. If it's gotta happen, I mean, I don't know what other option we have.
Yeah, because we're mailing almost 500,000 pieces of mail a year now.
Am I missing something? What happens if you don't mail that stuff?
Oh, yeah.
We have to, yeah, by
That's my
statute.
point.
we
Yeah,
have
that's
to.
their
my
statutory
point.
mail.
I think maybe the thought of possibly putting it on the watch list till say March is that you just never know if some other funds may be available that they could absorb a certain amount of that, just depending on what's going on between now and then, I think might be the thought process behind it. So it is possible that once we get to March, that they might not need the full 50,000.
Yeah, we would prefer, like you're saying, to have that sitting there so that we're good to go the whole year. But if it needs to come to that type of a push, we'd be willing to look at that and push that over there. We've never done that before, but we know things are tight.
Y'all lick actual stamps and stick them on there, is that, y'all like it?
No.
I mean, y'all have like the metered rate, like the
Well, we
discounted
have-
metered rate?
Yes, we have a
Prepaid
printing
postage.
service.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Or
pay.
send it to a printer.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Our stuff actually goes out at about 50 cents.
Okay, I was just curious, you said 60 yesterday, it shouldn't go out at 60, so I just don't know.
Yeah, we get the pre-sort discount. It saves us a ton of money.
Yeah.
So for the contract increases, have you guys already front funded and encumbered those full amounts for those contracts?
Have we done those yet? We had them. Except for the Esri ones, we haven't done the Esri piece. Yeah, we're waiting for that.
That's all three of those.
go from here? I mean, I think if there's a question about Tim's involvement, how much work he does outside of our office, I think it's quite clear.
No, I
The
don't
amount of
think
times that he's
there's,
spending in District 3, court clerk, the treasurer, emergency management, he's working with District 1,
I don't think there's any,
sheriff's office.
I don't think there's any question about that. That's why I asked the other day if it was time to go ahead and just move him full-time out and us just pick up the additional. Yeah, so then you're not having to worry about split and how much time is appropriate and not appropriate, and you can just look at, just moving him
All together.
all together.
So you said you would be willing to put the 50,000 on for the postage on the watch list?
I think we could do that. Are you still comfortable with that too? Yeah.
Is that your motion?
Yeah, I motion to put 50,000 on the watch list for
I'll second that.
assessor.
We got a motion and a second to add $50,000 on the watch list for the assessor's postage potential increase for this year. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it.
So you said that you wouldn't be willing to continue to pay Tim the way you are, and I get that. How is he doing it this last fiscal year? If he's doing all this extra work, how is he getting that done in the same 3 months? Does that mean that you were doing it this year?
Last year, we worked 9 months out of reval, 3 months out of general.
But what did Tim work? Tim worked 9 months. So he did all that work in 3 months? So could he not do the same thing this year?
No, he's already out of the office more than he is ever.
So so is he taking on more work this year than he did the prior year?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
it's continuing to grow.
okay. Yeah, that's what I was asking you.
Yeah, he's done startup programs in District 3, treasurer, he's worked with the clerk on your stuff. He's working with District 2, trying to get with you guys to see that, and then District 1, of course, and he's worked sheriff's office building
And so he did all that in that 3 month window?
within the last 3 months, yeah.
Okay.
He's been working, that's really when it's all kind of come to light, the last 3 to 6 months. But he's still working in our office too. He's doing deed work, he's doing new plats, lot divisions, splits, combos. So, but
Yeah, I was just curious if it had to be all 9 months or 3, or if it was, I was again, just trying to.
that number is really based upon what I see as workload from our
Yeah.
office and what I'm willing to pay out of the visual inspection fund for his part of the salary.
So what if we didn't have the money? What would you do with Tim? Like just
Have the
hypothetically.
money,
Right.
then.
Like if we weren't, if there wasn't a vote, just hypothetically speaking, what would you do with Tim in that case? Like I'm just asking, like what would the assessor, like if this was your last, hoorah, and so if this fails, then what? What's Mike's plan? I guess is what I'm
Well,
asking.
first off, all the programs that he started are gonna come to an end.
Okay.
Which includes almost everybody at this table. Secondly, if he's working for me, then I'm gonna have to go back and look and see if there's any way that I can keep him. If I have a workload for him, because all this has been created with the forethought that we were moving to a countywide GIS program that will pick up the services and incorporate that system into all of our workflows. And I think that that's where we're headed. And I think that we're headed in the correct direction with that.
So if, like, say next fiscal year, we were looking at something different from him, like pulling him out from the assessor altogether, are you able to absorb the assessor workload that he's taking on, that if we remove him from that, that
I
you will
could
no
do that
longer,
3 months, yeah.
you could?
I could take the 3 months and push that to the core that I have now. I could probably do that, yes.
Mike, what is Tim's full salary and benefits figure?
You know Tim's number?
I think that's 675, it's a good number.
No, that'd be
Taylor,
my
that
head.
was a
I
popular
do know that I got
song.
that reference. I got it.
Jody, she's seen it on TikTok. Come on.
Yeah, I saw it on the TikToks.
She's all over the Jody.
Not Instagram or all. That's for old people. And then my next question, while she's looking for that, Mike,
I think Tim's is 90 and Gabe's is 65.
90,000, that's salary and benefits for Tim.
Just salary.
So it's two people.
Yes, it's Gabe's.
But Gabe is 100% funded through general fund dollars, so.
And then how did you show Tim on your estimated needs for this year, for 24, 25?
Let's look at there. I have that sheet book out like that.
The assessor general, PGIS.
So has Tim, since he's a split, so far this year, has he been paid out of general fund or out of special?
This year out of Reba.
Out of Reva? Okay, so if we're kind of at that point, if we pulled GIS and put it into, say, MIS, then we've got like 9 months, but we still have 9 months available of general fund funding for him. So we could transfer that 9 months into MIS, which would pay for the rest of the year for general fund, so we wouldn't have to supplement MIS. We could just move Gabe and Tim's dollars over there, and then you said that you could absorb what Tim is doing with your current staff. So then we could potentially go ahead and do that now and not have a budgetary impact.
Yeah, the only reason I was doing is because of all the things that are doing that real quickly. I don't know how much time that would take to do that. And I've always looked at this program to grow in phases, so that it migrates and grows as it should. And
I'm just thinking, since
there's still some things that would put me in a bind, because some of the work that Tim does is for us on an administrative level, on servers and licenses and all that. I'm having a person that's learning that. I have to have that person ready to step into that.
but and I'm just thinking back to Brandon's point, if we can't find the extra money, if we moved him over and still made him available so that he can help train and do all of that stuff, for your folks, even though he was working in MIS, but he's still there and available, just like our MIS department helps. I know the clerk's office, you guys have your own MIS staff, but I think when they have questions and concerns beyond what they are specialized in, I think they lean on our guys, just like our guys probably lean on their guys.
And that's kind of where I had anticipated that.
Yeah.
It just makes sense that same service load spread, the same, no reason to reinvent the wheel. It's just, like I said, I would.
No.
Okay. So
Sometimes my eyes focus.
could we go ahead and look at that then, just go ahead and do that transfer now. That way we don't have a budgetary impact to you. And now you don't have to guess and, everybody else needs Tim to do this and do that. But I mean, you've got a need for that employee to do what you need done. And so it might.
Like I said, the only thing I would, if you were to make that cut now.
Training.
The training, and because that doesn't just happen.
Right, I get that. But if
There's
If it was
a
a-
lot
he
of
was-
protocols that have to go into the system to build that, to give those people the ability to be the administrator of those accounts and those licenses and so forth.
I mean, I think Mr. Stein would be the one that have to do that, right? I mean, we can't just take a department's employee. Because
Well,
that
no.
would switch him from a assessor to a BOCC employee.
No. We wouldn't be taking an employee. It would be transferring the GIS, and it would be something that, if they wanted to keep Tim and Tim wanted to stay, in their organization, he would stay, and then GIS would just have to find somebody else to run that. I mean, I'm not by any means suggesting hijacking and pulling. That's why, I'm asking if
Well,
now.
it'd be
maybe
my
not.
recommendation that Tim stay in the role that he is at. That would be my recommendation. Otherwise, you're starting a program again from ground zero from somebody that's not there.
But you had said that right now, other than the training aspect, you guys could fill that, and if he moved over to MIS doing this and we funded him completely over in the MIS side, but with the caveat that he knows he's still going to be helping you train
Absolutely.
and do all of that, he's not.
Yeah, and he would still be our contact source as we work forward, just as we would
Absolutely.
with MIS now in our
Yeah.
current.
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't want to not make him available. I mean, that would be a key part of what he was still doing, which would be helping you guys train new people, manage, your servers and stuff that you need. I mean, absolutely.
We would just have to understand that next year, we would have to annualize his salary
Into the
with
general fund,
MIS
yeah.
or wherever.
But we're gonna have to do that either right now,
Right,
or we could
right.
wait until next fiscal year to bite that off
Right.
and figure that out. We're gonna have to figure it out now or then, and we may have more flexibility then.
Right.
It's just a thought.
No, we kind of had that conversation before, even Tim and I had that conversation that where do we go from here? Where do we see, the need as well as the growth of the product? And I think that positions it in the point that it needs to be, because it's more of a supportive role for countywide offices. We have just been utilizing the foundation that was put in place.
Well, we
initially
knew the
to
day
do
would
that.
come.
Yeah, and that's why I always said if the baby gets big enough to have its
Yes.
own house, it
Right.
can move. I don't have a problem with that. I just want to make sure that the timing is right so that all the things that have been started or created, we don't lose that.
Well, and also sacrificing which your department needs, as we
Yes.
make that transition.
Yes. Yeah. I'd have to have Tim sign a non-disclosure that he'll work
Exactly.
specifically with us.
So I'm just trying to, okay, I don't mean to be, so I'm just trying to understand how this, in the last 3 months, Tim has done the majority of the work, but he's still being paid out of Reval? So when you say that you won't pay him out of another account, I'm confused how you're not doing that exact same thing right now.
But it's not only Tim, Dave.
But you said Tim.
But Tim,
Okay.
Tim and Gabe have been going and working these groups together, but Tim is still also working on our end, doing deeds. He's still training people. We have 2 techs that came in that he's teaching them the role that the assessor needs
Okay.
for that part of it. So Tim is really split in 2 houses, really. He still does our work, but still does everything that's asked of him from other offices.
I think where Mike is where Christy has been in the past, where you've got somebody that's on a special revenue account that is restricted, and you're maybe okay, but you're starting to get uncomfortable with the justification.
Yeah, like in our special revenues, I can't pay somebody out of that account if they didn't physically do that work.
Oh, absolutely.
So the fact that well, obviously that's not true, because if he's doing some of the other work and you're paying him out of reval, I mean, I'm not trying to be argumentative, I'm trying to understand. You just told me that that all this work has come on the last 3 months, but he's been paid out of reval the entire time. It doesn't, and if he's so busy, I don't see how he'd have time to even do the other training, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, it hasn't just been the last 3 months. I mean, we did the split last year, so he
Right.
started that work even last year.
He's doing work throughout the year. Each day he'll be doing some of this and some of that. So I think instead of them moving him from one account to another
Yeah.
daily
It's
or
not like
weekly or a month, they're just
So the
saying,
fund truly isn't that restricted. Because because on my account, you can't do that. Like, I can never pay somebody out of traffic safety.
yeah, it's not
They're
like
acting
that.
traffic safety.
No,
I
no.
got you.
So what they've estimated is that over a 12-month period, 3 months worth of work is going to be reval type work and the rest is the other. And so they'll either pay the 3 up front or pay the 3 months on the back end or whatever. And it's kind of how we do on highway cash as well.
treasury sale.
And
Right.
treasury resale. So
Yeah.
it's probably a little bit different than the way yours are.
Okay.
So what
You're right, but I do not feel comfortable moving forward.
and we had talked earlier about maybe making this transition July 1, but if we don't have the funds to go ahead and make an additional allocation right now, if we go ahead and do the transfer of GIS over to MIS right now, move the general fund dollars for them, we'll have enough general fund dollars to get through this year for those 2 employees. And we make sure that, and we've got the three commissioners' offices are sitting around the table. I mean, so we can weigh in if we think there's a problem. Because MIS is a BOCC department. I don't think there's going to be any issue with us.
Well, because
Telling them-
GIS, services the districts as well.
Right.
If they
But I don't
so
think
choose.
there's any issue. I think we can all say that we would tell Dane that we're moving these 2 employees, but Tim still needs to be made available to the assessor's office to help train some new folks and get them up to speed and, manage a few things while you guys are building up his replacement structure.
Yeah, because I've been pushing Tim for that part of it, so that when the point in time came for him to graduate, as I call it, that he would move on, but yet we would have a backup Tim, so that person would have some of the same or similar rights to us to allow us to continue to do our work.
Well, I think it's a great work that your office has done in, starting this and cultivating it and
Absolutely.
getting it to the point to where we can actually have this conversation and hopefully make the move. None of that would have happened if it weren't for your office.
Well, a lot of that's because of Tim and Gabe, of
Well,
course.
it's great.
Well, it's yours and Larry's vision and leadership on moving forward on that. We've got great employees, but if those employees, and we don't want to, we want to underscore and not ignore the fact of what they do to get this going. But if you don't have leadership that says, okay, let's do that, and, really kind of puts themselves out there, because that was something that we weren't doing. And that can be a little bit of a gamble, right? Whenever you're starting something, and you guys took that and ran with it. And having the opportunity to go out to the Esri conference this last summer and see all the things that those groups, not just Esri, but the organizations that work with and through Esri, and talking to some of the other clients, counties, municipalities, states, and, private sector entities, the effects that GIS networks have positively on organizations, I was just blown away. I knew that it was a big deal, and just talking to you guys and stuff, I had seen it firsthand, but going out there and seeing just the vast opportunity, it's incredible.
I think some of that's just, the exposure to it is the part that's the visionary part of it. Without seeing that or having that exposure to it, it's really hard to really picture it and be able to understand this. But we've been at it for, our first GIS issue was the Murrow building. So we've been at it for quite some time. We've seen a lot of that, a lot of a lot of history, a lot of knowledge with that, but that's where we saw the benefit that it would grow and develop and really be an important piece of the county. And I think that that's really what it's going to be.
So as far as this transition, what should that look like? Should we offer like a 30-day transition period? Is that something that can just be done just like this, and then, you know, with the knowledge of knowing that he will, you know, be returning to the assessor's office for as needed until the training is complete?
I would think at least 30 days.
Okay.
Because there's work in the project right now that's going on. Plus, there's going to be some logistics of things. I mean, I know that he would question, what does that mean for me personally?
Sure.
Where do I go?
Lots
What
of
do I do?
logistics to work
All
out.
of those types
So
of
do you think
issues.
30 days is enough?
I can say it'd be a start. I don't know that 30 days gives me the foundation that I need him to.
So what if we looked at a January 1,
I think that would be more
timeline?
realistic.
And then you still have general fund dollars to be able to take care of that, you know, through the end of December, right? And then we could do the transfer in January, January 1, move over to, or December 21st because of payroll
Right.
or whatever, move over to MIS and do a budget board at that time, do a transfer of the general fund dollars, your general fund dollars associated with those two positions, the knowledge that they are moving. It gives them the knowledge that they are moving, they being Gabe and Tim or whoever's going to be in those roles, and it gives you guys
Gives me a
that,
timeline,
so you guys
so I
have a
know.
timeline to start, and we can get everything moved and in place and be
That would-
smooth.
That would be much better for me because
And that doesn't mean that Tim won't still need to come back after that. And
but that would help me because I could project a timeline that I need this person up and running at this point in time.
Yeah.
For our support, and at that point we
Well,
split. and
I kind of see Tim
graduate.
kind of like Augie, you
Mhm.
know, I mean, Augie's everywhere.
Available for everything.
Yeah,
Always
I
see him in
mean,
the hallway.
Yeah.
right, I mean,
On his way
he's,
somewhere.
yeah, he's, you know, the Munis guru and,
Well, we're blessed that
And-
we have an individual that
right,
GIS is their world,
yes.
and we have the ability to feed somebody that has a passion, so.
that is true, yeah.
So.
Yep. So you guys comfortable?
Yeah, but y'all
With that.
realize doing that, which is fine,
Well, so there's,
to the tune of $12,000. Because last year, it was 10,000,
well, you guys
32,
have budgeted 9 months on the flat. I know that's not how you wanted it, but currently they're funded 9 months out of reval and 3 months out of general.
Right.
Okay, and then there'll be 3. So, okay, yeah, I see where you're saying.
move it, even if you move it
Yeah.
regardless,
Yeah.
us or MIS.
Okay. And we can, and that's the other thing, it'll give us we're talking $12,000, $15,000, $20,000. I don't think that's gonna be an issue. And it doesn't rush you. I mean, you know, we're gonna be in here in December and be like, where did October, November go?
That's just,
But
we started this back in May. We poised a person in anticipation of something of this nature, so,
Well, that's great.
yeah, and plus we needed something in case, I mean, sometimes things happen with people, either
Sure.
they get better positions or opportunities, or tragedies happen.
But having that succession plan in place,
Yes.
I mean, that's the first step to be able to make this bigger than what it is.
Yes.
So where does the $12,000 come from?
Well, because last year, Tim was funded 3 months
Reval.
into
I
reval,
mean,
and
3 months into general.
3 months into regular.
yeah, so we'll have 3 months of general
So
fund.
you have 3 additional months of general.
Because they're 3 months that they have for general fund, I'm assuming they'll move him over at some point into there. So it just depends. I mean, if they leave him in reval through December, then.
Well, he said he's not comfortable doing that.
Well, yeah, but if they do, then we wouldn't have to come up with any more money. If they do move him before then, like now, then we'll just have to figure out what those dollar amounts are. So it might be 12,000 and then the benefits on top of that.
And then I think Gabe last year was 6 and 6, and now he's 12 months.
Yeah, I
So
think
the
we
other
made that
half,
change.
his salary.
But MIS would need 6 months worth of salary, right? So it'd be way more than $12,000.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Then you have to do Gabe, which
Okay.
is half of
Okay.
65.
I say
Which
just sit
you
on
would
next
transfer
to
Gabe's
Ian,
over.
if you guys could bring those figures.
Yeah.
Or do a little sheet or something.
Make a little sheet.
We like
Somebody-
sheet, we like
somebody's
sheets.
good at
Love
that, I
sheets.
Okay, so,
We like
so
sheets.
of your requests, Mike, we put 50,000 on the watch list. The additional for Tim and GIS, we're gonna take that up later. If there is money that's needed, we'll move that into MIS in January, December, January timeframe, when we potentially have other monies transfer in there. What were your other requests?
What's left after deducting?
Those are just gonna be contract increases.
What are the total of just those?
53,000 or something, 'cause yesterday you needed 103, and if we take 50,000 off of it.
Well, he said
You start
200.
with 206.
Yeah,
206
206.
out of that side.
Well, I was just doing reduction here, because if yesterday needed 103, 50,000 was that. I just assumed the other 103 was salaries and benefits for these two
Mhm.
today. Do
I think it changed since yesterday.
I? Okay.
That would leave me with the watch list of 50,000 on for
Postage.
postage. The salary portion and fringe removed out of it leaves me with contracts fulfillment of 17,223, $17,223.73.
And that number, the 17,000, will shore up the
All the
differences in your contracts.
Yes.
Are there any other expenses that you need to?
Not on the general side, no.
Okay.
Is that what you came up with, sir?
Yeah.
Just want to throw in, double check my numbers on file.
Okay, and then what was the reval? And now we're gonna have to remember on the reval, whatever these go up, we're also gonna have to increase the revenue side, it's gonna go up, which will also have to increase the audit side because of those changes, just, right?
For this fiscal year?
If we're gonna increase,
Reval bills go out just once, like that revenue's set. Those bills,
okay, I thought in the past.
you don't
we
send extra
made
bills,
those-
it's usually in the fall,
I
around
thought-
October.
Okay, I thought in the past when we've adjusted that, we've also adjusted the revenue, maybe
If
that's
we're in
just.
this time frame, maybe, like for supplement, but once we
Yes, sir.
get out of supplement, we've never changed.
Yeah, no,
revenue.
but so I'm talking about right now, if we
Oh.
make adjustments to reval
Oh, I see.
for
what you're saying.
September supplement, then,
Well, I think the bills are calculated on. The bills are, they're still working on the bills, so if there's something. But I thought the bills are based on a previous year.
and we were also
Tax year.
waiting on those reval numbers, right? Do we have those yet?
No, still working. If you came out, we can look at last year's, year.
Well, okay, before we get too far off track, let's, did you verify?
Yes,
Okay.
that number
17,223.
17,223.73.
73.
Make a motion to transfer $17,223.73 out of general fund reserve to the assessor's general fund budget.
Second.
So this won't technically affect our supplement recommendation. This is similar to what we did on several other
Yeah,
items.
'cause we don't have anything left for supplement,
Yeah,
right?
we're done, yeah.
Right. Okay, so we got a motion and a second to recommend to budget board a transfer from general fund reserve to the assessor general fund budget of $17,223.73 for increased costs associated with contracts for this fiscal year.
Yes.
What was the dollar amount?
$17,223.73. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
That'll lead me down to just working with reval, visual inspection budget. A number that I need, the total is 104,213, 104,213. 40,000 of that is postage,
Can you give me that number again?
104,213. 40,000 of that is postage. And the rest are just gonna be contract increases. Contract increase for Nearmap, which is the aerial photography company, the county uses, increase of 10,255. There is the reval side of the Esri contract increase. We took care of the 57,000 on the general side. There's 10,000 of it coming out of the visual inspection side. Contract increase, 10,300 for Thimgen. That is the individual that works with us to create our valuations for real properties. There's a 5,000 increase in contract for Prognos, which is the software system that we use for our modeling for valuations. Contract increase of 11,908 for Catalyst. That is our appraisal or our Canvas system software that we use to manage all the county records in. $2,000 contract increase by Task. Task is a company that works our oil and gas accounts for us. $7,500 contract increase for iLookabout, which does our change detection. And $7,250 increase contract for SPSS, which also supports our modeling evaluations.
Those were all in your budget request, correct?
Correct.
That's what we used then on the revenue already, so.
Oh, we did.
It says reval budget request less 21 laps. Is that right? Oh, maybe you haven't updated it then. On your statement of revenues. Because you have an increase over last year. I just assume you used the 24-25 budget.
No.
Line 8.
Like what?
8. Line 8, a little farther down.
Oh.
Yeah, there. So you have an increase in there. So if you use their estimate of needs,
I think
Or
that
is that-
is, I think that's last year's number.
You think that's the what number?
Last year's number.
I have that.
Well, we've got to get that number dialed in and ironed out like now, because this is part of the supplement and it affects the audit budget amount.
But I think in prior years, that's how it's been done. It's like, I don't know if it's ever been actually ironed out. You gotta look at it based on what I've seen.
Okay, 23-24 supplement. Yeah,
Yes, that was last year's number.
yeah. 23-24. And then amended to the 5.7. So yeah, it's the fiscal year 23-24 amended budget. So the problem is we won't have, I mean, we do have to get it figured out. Because it's not gonna be the same number.
Was there any way to verify Albert's claim that when Grace says that if historically we've just rolled over the prior fiscal year's number, do you have the ones before that? Like, do you have 22, 23? Christie?
I don't
Yeah,
think I have that. I just kind of have all last year's. But I don't know how you would have the fiscal year 23-24 amended budget and use the exact same. When did it? Oh. That's 5.9.
That number bounce around or?
What's that number?
It's yeah, current bearing projection.
I don't know.
So the assessor's office has expenses related to that, and those expenses are billed out. So those expenses are what is driving this number. So whatever that budget was that the assessor's office needs for reval for this year should be the number that goes in there, right?
Where does that number?
Well, 90% of it.
90%, right.
That's how we end up
But
paying
that's
our
how
10%.
we come up
It's on
with
the revenue side.
their side and our side.
Who generates that number?
Well, let's see.
I mean, I'm sure it's not one person, but
Mike, do you guys usually generate that
Let's see, according to this,
reval number?
according to the note here on 22-23, just the reval.
Other than
estimated needs.
Yeah, based on amended estimate.
There's a slight increase moving.
Minus
Um,
5.
So we're gonna look at the assessor's estimate of needs, and he has an amended estimate of needs that has gone up 104,213. So that's the number, right, that we should be looking at there.
Have you amended your reval budget, or is it just the one that you submitted back in the spring?
I think it's the same numbers.
Yeah.
But that, okay, so that 104,213, all of that was
See, that
included
should
in
have
your
already been
spring.
voted in and everything.
What was your total estimate of need for reval?
24-25 total is 6,719,419.
419. Okay.
So I've got 90% at 6,047,477. there's some more revenue there,
Yep.
probably. But that's gonna be 2023.
Find a new number. That's what I went to search for, was a new number.
So what did we have in there? What was that number again? Line eight?
6,719,419 is this total reval budget.
Yeah, I got that.
90%,
What do we have in,
5,000,007, just last year's.
782, 119?
yeah, so that revenue amount should be 6,047,477.10, correct?
Yes, once you start working on it, yeah, and then once you start doing the calculations, yeah, it'll change. This number will change, yeah.
Yeah, so the total county reval reimbursement is gonna be 6,047,477.10. The county portion is 671,941.90. Based on the assessor's estimate of needs that were submitted that have not changed.
Okay, so explain to me again, so where do we where do we get the number from the revenue side? From the assessor's estimates?
The assessor says this is what we're gonna need for reval. And then the county's responsible for 10% of that number.
Okay.
And then the rest of that number, 90% of it is billed out. So our revenue number for reval should be 90% of the estimate of needs that the assessor's office provided last spring.
So how does the need of the assessor affect the revenue that will generate?
Because
you bill out.
their need, they say, this is what our costs are gonna be to do this.
Okay.
And 90% of those costs are the responsibility of schools and others. So if they say it's gonna cost us $100,000, then we're gonna be sending out $90,000 worth of bills.
Okay. Well, if the assessor knows what the number is, what's the harm in just plugging the number in? I mean, what number are we trying to get to then? I'm confused.
Based on
That's
I
what
am
Cody
too.
was talking to.
based on Mike's estimate of needs, the total county reval reimbursement should be $6,047,477.10 for this year. So that should be what is in line 8 of the revenue projections. Is that correct, Christie?
As far as I understand it, I just don't know if there's any other smaller, I wish we could look at this and compare it to, would you have your reval budget from last year? I just don't know if there's any other small calculation or an allowance for doubtful.
Yeah, pull up last year's reval budget and pull up last year's reval estimate of needs.
Yeah. But yes, I think that is, I mean, it's, you bill out 90%. But then I don't know if it's like, was it actual expenditures from a previous year? I've just never worked it.
I haven't,
Yeah, that's what
I just know we
earlier, where
need
the
to
number
handle our
came from.
10% on the revenue side just by taking it,
I've never seen the back end of it either.
regardless of, well, no, that's not true. was gonna say, there's nothing to add to the watch list or the supplement for reval.
Either
It's
one.
just if we,
140.
Well,
I think there's an increase in that line on the
we may
revenue
have
side.
revenue that is
Right.
not accounted for,
Right, that's,
which would
right,
add more to the supplement.
absolutely.
Mike, when you say the back end, what do you mean by the back end?
How it's billed, how it's,
So it's not something you all bill?
it's all built through the clerk's office.
It's an annual billing that happens once a year
To the schools.
to the schools, and cities and schools.
This is all those entities that receive ad valorem. City, schools, tech centers.
Okay.
It's to pay for their visual inspection of our staff going out and measuring houses.
Right there, let's see. That's 6.5, that was 6.6, I wonder if they added something, I wonder if that was their estimate needs in May, and they maybe did something.
That's what.
Final?
Yeah.
Is that the one you pulled up?
Yes.
GIS.
What's the one below that one?
They did transfer.
That's the Excel sheet.
Oh, okay.
In number, hardware.
But it would be the 140.
I mean, we know the 5.7 is exactly what it was a year ago, so that was just placeholder, so.
We hadn't worked all that yet because we had.
Eval budget 23-24. What's the comment on that?
That's that.
Oh, based on
Amended estimate.
amended estimated needs, so it was amended.
Well, if it was, it would have been being here under the.
That's the number I had down, my estimate needs from last year was 6696, so 34.
Go back to
Okay.
the comment. $66, $96.
Right, I think that same note was on the 22, 23.
Minus 5%.
It was probably a raise. Retirement taxes. Okay.
So what are we trying to determine here?
What the
So
correct
that's
number
what
on the
I'm thinking.
revenue side should be.
What the,
Yeah,
well,
on the
we
building
don't have that
side.
revenue. So we've done revenue projections and said what our supplement total amount was, but line 8,
that's the wrong
that's not
number.
this one. Well, it didn't, yeah.
But we just discovered that that number comes from the assessor's office. We take that estimate of need times 0.9, plug the number in, right? What am I missing?
Well, that's what,
I'm not 100%.
I'm not 100%, that's,
Oh,
It's just
okay,
not
okay,
something
okay.
I've ever.
that's why when we started this, I said, well,
I've now
we
said
just need to
everything I
put
know
the
about it.
assessor's number in and do 90%, and that's what it should be, but I'm not 100%
Okay,
positive
okay.
that there's not other little things that come out of it, because I've never done this part.
Yeah.
I mean, so is there a way then to go back and look at a few, I mean, what would be the appropriate path forward to make sure, because this is obviously a big thing we need to sort out.
That's what we were
If there's an
trying
extra
to
$500,000
do.
bucks.
That's why we were looking at their previous estimate and
But I
needs
couldn't
and.
see where
Yeah,
something
because this is the 23-24.
Right. And
Would
then,
you have to maybe look at the billing, if it's an annual billing, would you know a total amount for an annual billing previous?
Can we go back even further?
Can you go down for a second, all the way down to the calculation on that
oh, this
form?
one?
Yeah. Okay, go up, and then see what those formulas are in the Less County portion and the other.
10%.
Uh,
Wait, no.
G,
100%.
G9 minus G10.
It's way up the top somewhere.
Yeah, can you go up and let's see what that is?
Your
General and sinking.
general thinking.
Okay, so you subtract those two numbers from that 6696.
Don't forget your penny.
66035 minus 569, 316.29 minus 40.
Because obviously the county's gonna pay that
154. Okay, yeah, that's 6085733
bill.
17.
What'd you,
What'd you say it was?
6,085,733.17
so how did you do
is
that?
G9. I just subtracted.
But when you're looking at it, see how that total contribution?
Oh, I subtracted it from the reval.
Okay,
I was trying to see if they were, if those numbers were coming out of that reval estimate.
Gotcha.
Right.
But see how
I
there's
know.
more calculations just to get to those two numbers. You're starting with the previous year collections, you're doing some kind of a pro rata. I don't know, you're refunding something and then you're figuring out those budget amounts, but I think there's a little more to it maybe.
See, and that's the other thing, like AQ. Hidden.
Looks like payment dates are.
It's usually some money comes in that helps with my cash flow.
Where did that mess come from?
This is one of the tabs that was hidden based on the calculation.
That makes all the sense.
So 2023 and 24 rates are based on 22, 23.
B63.
Tomorrow's still looking good for you, Brandy?
Oh, I said I was gonna be out, right?
Got $1 billion budget?
Everybody's got that.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's got that. You can build a new jail. Problem solved.
Let's see what they're last year. So like last year.
Are those formulas the same every year?
I don't know. We haven't.
We'll just click on some of the different years and see if the formulas are the same. Because if they are, then
Funded for 21, 22.
So an amount to be refunded would be you didn't spend as much as you anticipated?
Me?
It was just in general?
There are
Okay.
times that we give money back.
Gotcha. You don't have to split it out between the different schools?
I think that adjustment is made and so it's not billed, the way I understand it. Is that correct? If we turn money back at the end, that's just an adjustment that's not billed.
Right.
We have turned
Like
money
this
back
year?
at the end of the
Looks like the earlier, you know,
3 years. I don't know.
last year at least.
So your budget was spring. You haven't changed it. You turned in your estimate needs. You haven't amended it, right? And it's the 6719419. Okay.
Yes.
So last year.
For the 23-24, wouldn't it be amount to be refunded for 21-22? Or am I looking at that? Or is that different?
Say that again, Albert.
Hold on one second, let me just. 2021. Yeah, okay, never mind, that's correct. Never mind. On this amount to be refunded, I was just double checking to make sure I hadn't moved to the next year,
Gotcha.
which it is.
So on the revenue sheet we have that we're working on, the big paper, on that line 8, the reval, the adopted budget for 24-25 is the exact same figure that is the 23-24 adopted budget, which they turned in a budget of 6 million some. So actually both numbers are, the 5.6 and the 5.7 are the exact same numbers from 23-24 supplement.
On the current estimate, you're saying?
I mean, it's a point.
Because we're talking $500,000 difference, right? From 5.7 to 6.2, you said?
Well, but
Well,
there may
it's
be
even-
some other adjustments here.
Yeah, you gotta factor in if there's any refunded money into your calculation to come down to these
Yeah, I
total.
mean, obviously the county's not gonna bill it, so. Like the collectors, I'm sure
Now,
that's why
is this
that's coming out.
calculation just for calculating the bills? And that when we are on the revenue side, that it's really as simple as the 10 and 90%?
Because this is the billing.
Because this is gonna be the big spreadsheet,
You need to
that
write
you
your
do
check,
to do the
correctional
bills
schools
that
needs to
go
write a
out
check,
now.
$7,000.
but as far as the revenue back in the spring,
I'm guessing, I've never seen.
I wonder if it is just the simple
How
divide their budget 90%.
One of the schools don't have that.
I mean,
I have no idea.
Because then you're
Like
gonna
what you
take
said,
that.
it's
Are you
somewhere.
able
What's
to
the bill?
bill
Go to,
based on what?
go to the supplement, or 23-24 supplement
okay.
revenues.
Do I have that?
Probably.
I wanna see if there's any notes.
For which one?
Line 8,
For 22-23?
No,
23-24.
We said no one.
Yeah. I don't know.
I know there's a lot that goes into the calculation for the bills.
Right.
And that probably is based on actual
But it's the revenue
Previous year, but I
side, it's
think-
just the revenue.
So I remember we.
Okay, 23-24, go line 8.
Let's see, they had, what they had in there budgeted. But
Reval budget request list 22 laps. That's not the one that I had that was attached to budget board a year ago. Oh, this isn't your supplement. This is
No,
gonna
this,
be,
I'm sorry.
yeah, go to your supplement projections. Supplement 23-24, is that right?
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's as simple as the request minus some laps. Then on the, no, it says, yeah, reval budget request less 21 laps.
See, that's the same number that comes off the spreadsheet.
Reval budget less 21.
It's the same number off of what spreadsheet?
That long one, the calculation for me.
Just look.
If reval receipts indicates that that's billed in the past, to me,
What is
that'd be
C,
my mindset if I were.
what's C13 and D13? Your cells up top.
Yes.
C13 and what?
And D13.
Well, C13 is county library,
County
299.
library.
Is that formula down at the bottom said C13, like it's D13, I thought. Yeah.
Which formula, Cody?
I thought the 5782.
No.
Okay, you must have been on a different line.
Yeah.
So that's G64 through 60, okay. And G64 is,
No, that's the one, remember
yeah, I'm
Yeah,
assuming it's
yeah.
just adding all of those above it. E64.
How do I
Go to
take
the-
request and minus the lapse?
What's that C63?
That's your totals. Okay, all these different categories.
And what, go all the way up, let me see what those are. Prorata cost.
So that'd be like the total budget, right? Divided, calculated to do the pro rata share. 6696.
66.96, yeah.
That'd be taking in your C64.
It's gonna be some percentages way off. It's calculated.
Yeah.
What's the AQ9?
AQ9 is this,
Way over.
yeah. That one.
But that's on the previous year.
Yeah.
Rates.
I wonder if we just take the budget and do 90%. Well, no, that's like 90% of 90%, like a contract. We're kind of stuck, so we've got to. We're just kind of sitting here, so we either need to give them a little more time. I don't know about our timing. If they think they can work on it, or we just go with the same figure from last year. Then we pick it all up next year, but I'm sure it should be higher than 5.7.
Yeah, based on what
Mm-hmm.
you have.
Yeah.
Will we be able to pick it up? I mean, or can we
No,
only
you wouldn't
bill?
get it till next year.
No, I know, but will we
Oh,
even be able to
bill it.
bill it?
You're
Because
right.
we
We've
got,
got to get this right.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was wondering, how does the school even know what to budget? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because their budget's been set since March, probably. mean, how would they even know what to budget? I mean, if we send Millwood a bill for $25,000 and they said, well, we budgeted 22.5.
Well, I think
Well, I think it's the billing, we send it out, it's calculated based on what I've seen and during August, and then somewhere in between now and December, we send the bills out, and the schools have until the end of December to pay that pre-val amount.
I mean, I think we need this number, otherwise it's gonna, I'm afraid that we would.
Our revenues will come up short.
Yeah,
So are we gonna need this before budget for? Are we gonna have
Yeah.
to have this? So then we need to,
I'm just afraid if we don't have the right number in that line, we can't bill it.
Mhm.
So if it was just a matter of,
I mean,
we can
good.
figure it out later, and then just make that money available next fiscal year. But I don't know that we'll be able to do that on something like this, so.
I mean, recessing or going into hibernation on this, I mean, where do we even turn to find out what the number is? It doesn't really sound like anybody's got any ideas on where that even comes from.
Well, we'll have to get all the numbers gathered and plug them in and go from there to get that.
What I mean though, Albert, is I mean, if you take numbers that are unknown in their origin to begin with, and then you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to send you down some rabbit hole that.
So I guess what it would be, this is a number you would go off of based on.
Where'd that number come from?
Based
From
on
the assessor's office last year?
Previous estimate.
That's your-
needs, yep, 66,96,734.
Okay.
That's what your estimate needs was last year.
Okay, so
let's
then
just
let
do
me.
90%. What's the?
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Well, why don't you duplicate that page then? If we were confident last year that that was the right number, because that's what we worked off of. I mean, duplicate that page, type in the assessor's reval budget this year, and see what number pops out at the bottom. I mean,
That's
all
why
the
I
formulas
asked if
show.
the formulas were the same year to year, and they're not.
Yeah, they're not, and then plus these collection amounts are gonna be different. Because it's factoring all this into the calculation.
Okay, so then if the formulas are different, then I guess it brings me back to my original question. Who do we ask? Who's the oracle in the county that would know where those formulas come from?
We don't have Oracle anymore.
I think we kinda do. I think it's still up there.
Well, it's up there, but.
we're not using that one. Is that a different Oracle?
Valuation,
Or-
total valuation, that's how the
Yeah.
schools budget that piece. They know that they're gonna be required, I don't know what that rate is.
Is that all that mess out to the side?
Yes, so yes, that, like, Oklahoma City Schools is the biggest portion, so they're gonna pay it, but it's paid in relation to the valuation side of things.
So if you scroll down every one of those, Howard, if you scroll down that entire list, every one of those schools have a number, which that number is not the same for any year.
No.
Fantastic. So like where?
That's what Albert's saying over there.
That's why it's gonna change, because school districts grow at different.
But for our revenue side, no, that matters on the billing, but for on the revenue side, it doesn't matter if this one is 34% and that one is.
It's the same.
So
We're still
the-
collecting the overall pot.
Right.
It's just
So-
how
so
it's.
this
It's built out at apportionment based upon the valuation.
So this is only for the billing side right here.
Yeah, this is what we use for the billing, but
Okay,
then,
so
but then that number is what, this number off the spreadsheet here is what ties into statement of revenue number.
That's the number that's plugged in the revenue.
Okay. Where on that sheet is the assessor's, that's the one at the top left-hand corner, the B1 or whatever, B3?
Yeah.
So that number came straight from what the assessor said
Which
it was
is-
going to cost them to do this job.
Based on our estimate here.
So can you just change that to the 6719419 and let's see what it does?
Well, I mean, he was saying,
But you gotta
yes,
factor in all
all
this,
those different, yeah, that's what I was gonna
all
wonder
this is
earlier.
gonna be different as well. Because your
The collections.
collections are gonna be, I'm assuming higher.
So where's the sheet that Albert for 24-25?
For which one?
For this,
For 24-25, because this is 23-24. Where's the sheet you did for 24-25 to get that number?
I don't think they've
No,
done it.
no, that
We
we,
don't have
the number
one
I was,
for it.
I was
Oh,
this,
okay.
this one here.
I thought this was a historical reference on.
No. No, this is just for 23, 24. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so that's what I was asking, how do we plug that number in?
Yeah.
So we just carried over 23, 24 number
Correct,
to
yeah.
24, 25?
Yeah.
Okay.
For both the adopted and amended.
So do we want to recess until 3:00 and see if they can get it figured out? I mean, it's not going to do a whole lot of good for us to sit around the table and do that, but I mean, we've got to get, we have to have that number.
Move on. I do have two quick things that I think we can, on the election board, under special election watch list, I have, question marks. I saw a news article where 300,000 was quoted. And then I looked back to the last time we had a special for the county clerk. It was 240,000. So I wonder if we need to just put a dollar figure in there. I mean, it can be 100,000, but just, I think instead of question marks, there needs to.
Yeah, I agree.
Talking watch list.
A watch list.
We're not talking game, we're talking watch list. Talking about practice.
When did you see the 240,000
The
figure?
240 is January of 23. That would have been when Hoop was leaving, and
And so we've increased,
I don't know where the 300 came from. I just saw it in the news article like this morning, but so I don't know where that came from.
probably sounds right after.
And I know it factors on where it ends up,
Well,
but I wonder if we just,
I think
it is a watch
precinct,
list.
I think the salaries for precinct officials have
Right,
gone up.
they've gone up
and
since
that kind
then.
of stuff, so.
So I'll make a motion to, set that dollar amount at 300,000 on the watch list for the, special election board.
I'll second that.
We got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
And then let me ask one other question. On the IT, so it's down a few lines, IT, DA, pretrial services, Allied Universal is 40. But also in the pretrial services program, we had 40 on there as well. So in a way, it's in twice. It may not matter because it's a watch list, but I just didn't know if it's like it's on the watch list twice. I mean, it may not matter.
Are you saying that the 40's included in the
When
300,000?
Yeah, when we did the shortage, when we did all the contracts, we had put actually the 42.4 on the sheet. So when we were working down to get to a shortage of, and we rounded to 300, but that was the 42.4
Was included
was in
in the
there.
300. Okay.
And we may, it's probably fine. They're not gonna wash out that way. I mean, but we may want to do the DA and not, it may be fine, actually. That column doesn't matter a whole lot. It's just when we go to recommend.
Yeah.
I bet we could leave it, because then,
I'm comfortable with leaving
yeah.
it.
Okay, me too. That's all I had.
I mean, before we recess, I mean, Gary or Albert, I just feel like we're sending you again off into an escape room that's unescapable here. I mean, do we know, are you confident did you know where you can get those numbers to type into that spreadsheet? That's a lot of freaking numbers to get in a pretty short window. I mean, all those percentages that appear to be different every single year, all the numbers on that left-hand column has got to be manually inputted. Those have no formulas attached to them. Do you see what I'm saying? I mean, we can send you off for 4 hours to go play house, but if we're coming back to the exact same number because they physically can't get them.
Well, if we were talking about next week, I would say let's give it a couple days, but I would really like to have our recommendation attached to the agenda, which means you guys need that by 9 o'clock in the morning. So I get what you're saying, but I think if we're gonna have something attached to the agenda in the morning, we need to get this figured out this afternoon. If we don't get it figured out this afternoon, then we may have to ask budget board for some more time.
So then I guess my follow-up question would be, in the event that we cannot generate that number by this afternoon, what is our plan as a BET? Is it just to plug a guess in? Is it to,
Go off last year's?
well, but like
That's
Christie
what,
said,
that's,
because,
right.
I mean, because and y'all would know this better than me, but if we set this thing in stone through budget board action on Thursday with the wrong number, are there any changes that can be made
That's the
at a
problem, I don't
subsequent
know.
date? And I mean,
Not to
so,
the revenue. Not to the
Right,
bottom line
so-
of that revenue.
Right, but the question is though, is can we still get that revenue in and be able to
That's what I'm
just budget it next year? If that's the case, then we could just go with the lower number and say, we'll just not use that money this year and then we'll still receive it and then we just budget it for next year. But on something like this, I don't know that that
I
is
don't
even a
know
thing.
how
So
that
that's
would-
why I think we have to have
Because
this
of the
number.
bill-
Well,
because of the billing, I don't
and,
know.
and so,
Yeah.
so let me ask this, so, and, I mean, how would the assessor's office physically do the work if they have, you see where I'm going? I mean, if they know that it's
They
gonna
have a
cost
budget of,
$6.7 million, you know, the county is gonna give them 10% of that, and Reval's gonna give them what appears to be 82%, I don't even know what the number is of that, they're 8% short. So even if we could budget that money next year, that doesn't help
This year.
Mr. Stein right now paying people that are,
I mean, wouldn't it be as simple as taking the estimate of needs and subtracting the amount to be reimbursed, not spent, and then multiply that by 90%? Because everything else is, the split is just between different, whether it's library, whether it's this school or that school, or,
but the percentages are all different.
yeah, but the percentages are all gonna add.
Up to
To the-
the grand number.
It should add up to the number of the.
Are all those percentages gonna all add to 90 once you take
Right.
your estimate of needs
They
and
should.
subtract the amount that you didn't spend that would be refunded? Shouldn't all those other percentages add to 90%?
I would think they.
Actually, add to 100% without the county being
That's the
10.
way I've always understood it to be.
and again, I wonder if this is really just for the actual billing.
You
And
know,
it's
see,
going off a year's collection prior
Right.
and
Right.
actual expended, so, but on this, the
Yeah,
revenue
that's
side, if
so
it is just
unnecessary.
as simple as,
I think it's just the straight 10% pullout that we use for our purpose.
That's what I
I
thought it
think that
was.
that's safe to assume that.
Because
I think
that's
so
what
too.
you're gonna be billing based upon our estimate of needs.
And the percentages are just saying who's gonna receive what
Right.
portion of the
Right.
bill.
Right.
that's a heck of a guess if it's wrong. I mean,
And it's-
But we can work that number between now,
And can you
And
verify
three.
that's what
right,
has been
and
done?
see if we feel like that's just completely not what's, it looks
But
like it's
again,
happening.
while we've got,
Because it looks like
It's
you're
gonna-
using the
And we may
previous
be phoning a
estimate of
friend,
needs at the top.
like around this table, you
bills
know.
will be,
also
I
the
mean, the
SWAT
bills
truck
are gonna
over.
go out accurately. I believe that. It's just, if we're making the assumption that 90% of their budget on the revenue, we're either gonna make the revenue or not gonna make the revenue.
Can you guys reach out to maybe Tulsa County and see,
I didn't know if there'd be like a delinquent,
or somebody,
like if somebody didn't.
you know, that's done this for a few years and just verify that we're tracking
I
this
don't know, I'm
correctly?
just wondering.
Yeah, I've never, that was interesting to see the billing side of it. I've never seen
Yeah,
that part
I
of
haven't
it.
either.
I just know that it's based upon their percentage of valuation.
Well, I mean,
So
so,
that same percentage is
I'd like to go
based
back,
upon.
well, that's what I said, we can go 2 or 3 budgets back, so like, but I mean, so like at the bottom of this, so I mean, let's try to back into this number here if I'm thinking right. So what is the total amount that we billed these schools? Based on this sheet that we assume is correct from last year?
The 5.7?
5.7.
That's what we told, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then that in and of itself is problematic. Because if we assume that this spreadsheet is correct, if we, unless I'm missing something, their budget last year was not 6.9.
And those
That's
added
not
the
10%.
the 6392. So the difference between the 6392 and the 69
Is
is
610.
which I think that's the,
General
whenever I was
fund
adding those up earlier,
should be our county.
the sinking fund, those two items above,
Yeah, that,
the 569 and the 40. So the county general, which would be our 608, and then the county sinking.
6.6, not 6.9.
Okay, yeah, 6.6.
So do all those numbers jive though? So the original estimate from the assessor's office was 6.7 for easy numbers. We billed 5.7, so where'd the other million come from?
Well, all those numbers there add up to the 1,038,000.
The county side of it is 1 million.
well, the total between the general sinking 4 mil,
Right.
Okay.
county health and the library adds up to that.
So we billed out the 5.7 and then the county had to pick up the 1 mil.
Okay, so county picked up 1 mil, then that's not 90% though. That's the point I'm trying to make. So I don't think it's safe to assume that we just take the current budget and whack a 90% number on there and claim that's good, because I don't think that our numbers are backing into that math. I don't see how that's working the same way.
Can you highlight G10 and see where that formula came from?
This one here?
G10.
Oh, GK.
That's good.
That's just up there.
Where did that
And
F
then
come
this
from?
number came from the pro rata minus
Refunded.
Okay, go to the pro rata, the C10. Where did that number come from, the 43,801?
That's gonna be your,
Gotta go back over there.
it's gonna
AQ,
be the total there, which is your, should be your
Which-
budgeted
that's your
right there. And then
assessors.
times the percentage of your, whoops. Times that percentage right there.
So where did that percentage come from?
And then that one,
Can you highlight that percentage? that AQ
See, that's what I was saying earlier though, because the county's portion also has percentages attached to it. That's some 20%. So where does that?
B10 divided by B63. I think I got my bingo a long time ago.
10% is general.
which is
Those
the
others
collections for the sinking
might be the rest of it.
B10 by
and
B63
B63,
It's probably
is
the
gonna be the
total.
total.
or the grand total, that B column.
Okay. So you can get those numbers to get that percentage for the sinking, because those are readily available. Your total number, and then that B10.
At least we know those are about 20%.
So, so, if y'all want to see what the number is, once we plug in all the current information.
986. Go back to the other sheet that had your total, like 986 million. We're trying to see.
That's that sheet right there.
Just get a little.
Scroll to the left,
Scroll back on to the left.
right there.
We're thinking that may be a tax bill number.
Yeah, it
Right
is.
there.
It is.
It's collection.
So you just,
So is that actual collections or a tax roll?
That's the actual,
Bill.
should be actual collection for 22-23.
Okay, so that's gotta come from somewhere from you, because I saw up in her, one of those formulas, it had a spreadsheet from treasurer.xls on it. There it is, right up there, it's current Adborn treasurer
Oh,
fiscal
this one there.
.xls, so
Yeah.
there's some spreadsheet that.
Where are you seeing that?
Right, in the form of our, for the current county general. Right there.
That's off our year-to-date apportionment.
So that's kind of where that number's coming from.
So then that's,
That was provided to them on our
Do what?
I don't know the spreadsheet.
Well, the hard copy was like mid-July. The Excel part was August 8th.
Yeah, so,
So that's part of it there.
is this something? This isn't what you provided, is it?
No.
No, so.
That's
yeah,
what
we have-
Karen, I think that's a,
So
it
we
was
have- we
Karen
have to-
that used to do the billing, and then it went to Nina last year. Karen was like Karen was the one that had this for many, many years. And Nina did it last year,
Mhm.
in October, or sent the bills out.
Yeah.
Well, regardless, I still kind of go back to, if our revenue last year was 5.7 and the estimate that it cost them was 6.7, unless I'm missing something glaring, I'm not comfortable just throwing a 90% number there, because that's not 90%. I don't know how or why or what, but somehow it's gonna mess our numbers up this time next year, I would think.
So, what I can do is go back to the office and kind of start gathering some of this information, hopefully get
Jerry and I are gone Thursday.
the bottom number of what you guys need by 3 o'clock.
What'd you say?
I said, I can go back to the office and start gathering some of this information and inputting into that spreadsheet, and hopefully by 3 o'clock, if that's the timeline you guys want to reconvene, hopefully have that number you guys are needing.
All right, you guys wanna shoot for that?
Sure. We can see it. Yeah, we can have Albert go ahead and start working on it. I didn't know if we needed, I was gonna say this at the very end, that we take the watch list and we take the supplement page and literally go through it and go, is this on the agenda? To try to help Cassie out. I noticed that draft is missing, like, just so we really know what.
Oh, as far as the recommendation items for the watch list, I have those in Lynch Star. I just haven't posted them.
Okay, I feel
Yeah,
better.
I
As long
only
as
put
we
in what
kind of gone through.
I would have put in.
Yeah,
I'm with you.
yeah, after yesterday, I went in and created those agenda
Okay.
items. So,
And then what about like the supplement?
that one,
I guess you kind of had to wait for our figures today.
yes, correct, yeah, to kind of.
Okay.
finish
Okay,
it up.
I feel better. There's.
I motion to recess until 3 o'clock.
Do we have a second? Got a motion and a second to recess until 3 o'clock in this room. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's have it. Thank you.
Carrie, you can go reach out to Karen.